Hi guys, welcome back to Two Worlds Collide podcast. On today's episode, we have Ben Seymour. Ben is a former professional rugby union player from the ages of 18 and 26, then moved into the fitness industry post-rugby, opened a gym in Melbourne in 2018, started running ultra marathons specifically, has completed the Atacama Crossing, which is a 7-day 250k event across Chile, the Bali Hope, which is an 85k race, the Kosci 100-miler, and is about to tackle the TDS at UTMB in 5 weeks and is known as one of the toughest ultramarathons in the world. Ben is also a current business owner of the Recoverylab and is about to open up Studio 17. I hope you guys enjoy. Mate, Ben Seymour, welcome to Two Worlds Collide podcast. How you going?
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And how I know you is, the dude I had on my podcast recently, Warren Proctor, is a good mutual friend of both of us, and you guys have run a few adventure races and stuff like that together.
Yeah. I'm sure we told you all about him.
She told me that that he was dragging you through most of them races. So, do you have a different side of you to that?
Yeah. He took all my supplies to get him across the finish line after he bonked. But no, he's a beast. He's taken me across a few.
Yeah. Do you guys do you guys sort of run together and train a bit together, or have you trained together recently in the past?
Yeah. We do a fair bit together, I guess, when we can, when our timetables align. But I don't exactly know how we got into our first kind of race together. But we've had some good experiences.
Yeah. Were they adventure races together, and was that in New Zealand and like pair races? Do you want to walk me through that?
Yeah, so our first one was Red Bull Defiance in New Zealand, in Wanaka.
Yeah.
Adventure race, so we've got mountain biking, kayaking, running, trail running. There as multi-day, so 2-day event. I can't remember the exact kilometres that we had to do, but there was a fair few, and it was good fun. And
so what's the go with that? Are you hooked up together, by like a bungee cord or something?
You can be, yeah. So at times you are, and you can use that to your advantage to help you get up hills on the mountain bike or with the run and things like that. But he had me on the tow rope for a bit of the run there. I think in the bike I took off and just went hell for leather at the start and was way up the front and then just absolutely fell off the rails there, which was pretty funny. I lost all my brakes as well with some hairpin turns.
Yep.
Going down there, and he was screaming at me saying, "You don't need your brakes, just keep going." I'm like, mate, it's not like falling off the edge and into some bushes. It was falling off the edge to death. But mate, it was awesome.
That sounds like Warren to an absolute T. His last episode, mate, was actually incredible. We sat here and did it last night, and it was just it was so good to see him open up about, especially the military stuff. Going over to Afghan and getting into the unit that he got into in the military, and we were talking about this just before. My formative years were in the military. I joined in at the age of 18, and I had people like Warren, for better or for worse, take me under their wing, and guys like that sort of helped me become a man. Yeah. In sort of like a lot of my years. So I actually have a lot to thank for Warren, and he's a great guy, but how he still does his stuff at the age he's still at,
60.
And like how he still runs around, and me and my friends always joke all the time that we think that he's a robot. He was made in a lab.
Yeah,
we actually don't think that he was like an actual person that had like someone had a baby with him or something like that.
Yeah.
So. But great guy, and he's got a really good question for you as well that we'll roll into after a few things as well. But I was really, really pleasure to have him on, and it was actually an honour to have him on as well. So, Matt, I just want to jump on to a couple of questions for you, and specifically I want to dive into your rugby career and how you got into it, and did you grow up sort of playing rugby, and like did you fall in love with it from a young age, and then it was one of those things? Because I have a sort of similar story, right? I grew up playing footy AFL in Adelaide, and I loved it. It was my whole life for years and years until I joined the military. So was that a similar sort of thing, and is that how you fell into it? And let's sort of go back a bit as well. Did you grow up in New Zealand?
Yeah, so I grew up in New Zealand. It's kind of what we do, play rugby there. I started when I was about 4 years old. So we were running around on the frost, barefoot, playing playing it every day of the week pretty much, and then also at home with my younger brother. So, did that all the way through school, moved to Australia when I was about 13, and then, moved to Scots College here, lucky enough to go to Scots and play rugby there as well. So it was kind of my main focus, whilst I should have been focusing on my academic endeavours. But yeah, it was just it's in my blood, I guess.
Did you get a scholarship to go to that? Like, was it Scotch?
Scots College here in Bellevue Hill.
Yeah, okay.
In Sydney.
Is that like a big rugby school or?
It is now. It probably was on the up and coming. There were probably a few better rugby schools, Joey's, Kings, up there. But since I left, they've won a few premierships, which has been cool to see. And some young kids, Angus Crichton, went there, and a few other boys that have really cracked on. So it was pretty impressive.
Yep. Was there because I find this absolutely fascinating, right? That there's a difference between league and union. Was there a reason that you chose union over league?
I think union's just definitely the number one sport in New Zealand.
Yeah.
When I was there, being the All Blacks, best team in the world, and everyone sort of looked up to them, and that was the thing to do. Yeah. I didn't really know too much about league, to be honest, back then. I think the Warriors were still around, and I remember watching like Ivan Cleary and Stacey Jones and those kind of guys there. But, Carlos Spencer, Dan Carter, Richie McCaw, those guys were people that we kind of looked up to when we were kids. Yeah,
I recently read this book, and I've mentioned this on my podcast a lot. It's called Legacy by James Kerr.
Yeah.
Outstanding book, and it actually talks about, if you think it's a rugby book, right, but it doesn't actually talk about the playing of rugby so much. It talks about the character and leaving the jersey in a better place and that sort of stuff. And brilliant book, and it sort of really, really, hit home with me with a couple of things that that they sort of do in the New Zealand All Blacks, and it's not about playing rugby as such. It's about being a good person, but then that breeds being a good rugby player, and just the things you have to uphold being a New Zealand rugby player and stuff like that. And I found it absolutely fascinating, and it was like an amazing book. Do you know it? Have you read it?
Yeah. I've read a little bit of it, and was lucky enough to play against people like Dan Carter and Richie McCaw back in the day, so I kind of saw it firsthand. What they did, and at the Crusaders there, that was my last game for the Western Force, and got to go into the sheds after the game and sort of witnessed it all firsthand.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing with their sweep the sheds policy, how they do it, and it doesn't matter how good you are or who you are, no one's bigger than anyone else in that system.
Yeah.
And for people that were the best player for rugby in New Zealand, or they got best on ground for that game, for them to be sweeping the sheds after and not making the strap guy do it or the water boy do it or something like that is absolutely incredible. And that sort of, that breeds that success. And you sort of sit back and you go, well, shit, if people like that at that level can do it, that's why they're so good. That's why they've got a winning percentage of 78.56 or something like that. The highest win percentage in international sport together.
Yeah. Right.
There is no better win percentage. And it sort of makes you sit back and be grounded a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
With how amazing they are. Sort of staying on your rugby career a bit. Did you where did you start, and then sort of where did you finish as well, in professional rugby? Yeah,
so finished school here. Was in sort of the Waratahs Academy for two years there. And then managed to pick up a contract at the Western Force. So that was my first Super Rugby contract there. Moved to Perth and played there. There was a couple of injuries ahead of me, and I managed to start most of the season there at 10, which was something I didn't really expect, but had to really grow up and fill the jersey. Pretty solid team there. So I had a pretty good support network around me and lots of experience and players there. And then really enjoyed that. Then I went off to Europe, went to France, back to New Zealand for a season, and then to Italy.
And when you talk about numbers as well, you know, man, I'm from the AFL world, so I don't really understand too much about, you know, numbers and positions and stuff like that. Do you just want to explain to me what that number 10 is and what the role is?
Yeah, so first five or fly half, sort of a quarterback, I guess, of the rugby team. You got to be make decisions under pressure, drive the team around the field, mostly kicking, a lot of kicking, goal kicking as well was sort of high up on the priority list there, whilst anyone can sort of do it. But yeah, bit of that. And being the youngest in the team always makes it a bit difficult, but you really got to stand up and be decisive.
So you were pretty much the shot caller for that team, but also being the youngest in the team. Did you ever kind of come under any heat, you know, for making bad decisions or something like that?
Not really. I guess I got taught. I had Nathan Sharp, I remember, pulled me into the coach's office and just said, mate, you're on this week. We're back here 100%. I need you to tell us what we're doing. And when you tell us, just be 100% behind it and we'll do whatever you say. So for me, that was just like a bit of a confidence booster.
Yeah.
And I just knew that I had to make a decision, and whether it was right or wrong, they'd go with it. And they just needed that. So, I just learnt that.
Isn't that great leadership qualities from him as well, though? You know, to come in for a younger bloke and just say, look, mate, we've got your back.
Yeah, exactly. That's
you know, whatever you do, we've got your back. Right or wrong, we're here for you.
Yeah.
Did that give you a bit of confidence?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah, and that just shows leadership, doesn't it? You know, from his point of view and stuff like that. Look, I'm going to jump onto a question for you, and you're going to have a question for my next podcast guest, but we'll get to that right at the end of the podcast. And but Warren had a question for you, and it was good, really, really good question, because it wasn't a question on my books for you, so it was, you know, one of those extended things I can find more out about you. But you know, you had a pretty bad back injury. I think was this after professional rugby?
Yep.
So you had a pretty bad back injury after professional rugby, and obviously being in the fitness industry and doing the running that you're doing, a bad back can be one of the worst things, right? Like calves, hamstrings, knees, they generally get better, but if you can't get your back right, it can absolutely stop you like nothing else.
Yeah.
So do you want to walk me through that? How bad it was, and then the road to recovery, you know, and sort of getting back to running ultra marathons and doing crazy shit like that.
That's a nice question from Warren. I was pretty nervous having to answer something from him, but yeah, mate, I did make him rehearse it, so don't worry. Yeah. I had a discectomy in my back, so L4, S5, I believe, down the bottom of my back. You've got obviously your vertebrae, you've got discs sitting in between those, and some people you might have heard like of a bulging disc, so a disc is kind of bulging out to the side, you know, with some time off and some recovery protocols and anti-inflammatory benefits and things, you can, you know, bring that back in to sit quite nicely in your vertebrae. But mine bulged, protruded down my spinal canal and then actually burst.
Shit.
So I burst while I was asleep. I remember it. I woke up absolutely screaming, couldn't feel my legs.
What, just in the middle of the night?
In the middle of the night, yeah. Okay. So obviously I was doing a fair bit of running beforehand, and your body kind of seizes up. It doesn't want it to happen, right? So your body seizes up. My hips were getting tight. Everything was kind of getting tight, and I didn't listen to myself and kept pushing through and running and doing silly things. And I must have relaxed in the middle of the night, and it just completely went. So I tried to get up to go to work and nearly passed out. So that wasn't ideal, and just sort of lay down on the bed flat, face down, in a completely relaxed position, because that was, you know, the only thing that I could kind of do. From there, went and got all the scans and doctors and saw a surgeon, and I just wanted to get cortisone kind of injection, I think it was, to just settle it down. But he's like, mate, you'll be back in 3 weeks' time and need it operated on. So
yeah,
I was sort of straight in there, and 6 weeks of no lifting anything at all, not even sitting down.
Yeah.
Only to go to the toilet. That was all I could do. It was either laying flat or standing up. So that was a bit of a change in my life pretty quickly.
Yep.
And yeah, had to make just, I guess, take small positives from things that we were doing. But working on a lot of core strength and, it was a really slow process coming back. But it still hinders me day to day. Sitting at a desk is not ideal. Traveling and things like that.
Yeah. Sitting doing this podcast, probably not great.
Early in the morning's not too bad. Too bad being in the ice bath, so it feels all right. But it gets worse throughout the day. But I need to stretch. I need to do a lot of core work and things. It's not going to hinder me too much.
So it's just something you got to stay on top of consistently now.
Yeah, definitely.
So what sort of stuff do you do to stay on top of it?
A lot of core work, trunk work, making sure that I'm strong through there.
Yep.
A lot of farmers carries and dead ball carries and stuff. I still do all of my strength work. I don't go as heavy as what I was doing previously. Not here to try and break world records for that. So dialing that back, but still deadlifting, still squatting. It's super important to have that strength through that. But then just managing sort of training load. It doesn't help that I'm a bit heavier than most runners, and sort of I can feel it on the downhill sections, but it's not too bad.
Yeah.
I just get on with it, I guess.
You strike me as one of those people that coming up from a rugby background and that sort of stuff. Injuries are part of the game, right? You're probably just seeing this a part of your game, and you need to get better and stuff like that. But was there ever a point where you thought to yourself, "Oh shit, maybe this is actually really, really bad, and like I might not get back to full fitness"?
Yeah, well, the surgeon definitely did say that. He's like, "Mate, I wouldn't be doing what you're doing. It's not conducive to your future life, I guess, and things like that." But there's certain things that I can't do that I probably did do before, but I've pivoted and. Movement's medicine, I think, both for the mind and for the body. So you got to work out a way to get it in, and it's going all right so far. Yeah,
I've spoken about this on my podcast a lot. The importance of moving and continuously putting your body under that fatigue level and stress and that sort of stuff. And obviously there's good fatigue, and then there's like bad fatigue where you're just running it too far and stuff like that. But putting yourself under stress and putting your body under stress is what I've found, and we spoke about it on my podcast with Warren, is very, very beneficial for you.
Yeah.
Very, very beneficial for, mind and body.
Yeah.
For me personally, I've had a shoulder recon and a knee recon. When I stopped moving and I stopped running, that's when my knees and shoulders actually started to get worse.
Yeah.
I've experienced it recently. I've had a calf injury for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and I've only just got back into running the last 2 weeks. But the deloading process that I went through, I was running 50, 60K a week, and gym every afternoon and assault bike sessions and stuff like that. But the deloading process that I went through and how sore my knees were getting and how sore my back started getting when I wasn't moving was incredible.
Yeah, I agree.
And when your body gets used to that and it gets acclimatized to it, and then it stops doing it, it's like, what the fuck are you doing now? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it's incredible what the body gets used to. And then when you stop doing something like that, it's just like, hey, Sam, what are you doing? Stop doing it. So yeah, have you always seen the importance of continuously moving and staying active through your whole life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think stepping outside. It's cliche, but the comfort zone, and always stepping over that edge of what you think is possible and stuff. It always brings it back into everyday life, whether it's relationships, business, and things like that. But I found in the last year that sort of where an analogy of like where you're training at, you've got a ceiling, and I've always tried to train at the ceiling and continually push it up, but. That's probably where injuries come in. So it's like pushing that ceiling up and then training just below it and sitting in there and building that foundation, and then the ceiling increases or goes higher, and then you've got more load in that area, and then continually build up that way. So training at the ceiling for a week and then bringing it back down, deloading slightly and making that a new foundation, and then going again, rather than just training at the ceiling 24/7.
Yeah. Do you have blocks where you might train a lot harder than you do normally?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've recently just got a coach, so he manages everything like that, which is awesome for me because I like to go full bore, and I just need someone to pull me back every now and then and hold the reins.
Well, personally, I do that as well, right? when I'm up and running and I'm fully fit, I'm generally running, a half marathon most weekends and 15K on a Tuesday, 10K recovery on a Thursday, and then assault bike sessions and stuff like that throughout the week and gym every afternoon. But I think I always over push it too much.
Yeah.
But I enjoy that though. I enjoy continuously pushing it at that level. I probably do need to pull it back quite a bit, but it's really, really hard to unconvince yourself to do that sort of stuff, isn't it? Especially when you're fit and healthy and you're like, I can do another.
Yeah, sometimes it's not always,
this weekend.
You're not doing it for the body or, like for that physical aspect. Sometimes it's just for the mind. So sometimes for the mind, you need to be going pretty ham, but the body might not be conducive to what the body needs at that time. But finding that balance is important.
Yeah. Now, talk to me about your Recoverylab and what you're doing now. And I was having an interesting conversation with Warren over dinner last night, and he sees me do my ice bath every morning, but he's telling me it's too cold. So what's your thoughts on the adequate temperature for it and, doing morning plunges and stuff like that?
Yeah. A lot of the science and literature that I've been sort of reading and listening to talks around 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. My ice bath sits at 8. Our studio's baths sit between 8 and 10 degrees. For someone getting into their first, cold plunge, I think 10 is definitely enough. And we work on like a progressive overload thing. So like when you're doing a squat, right, you start at a body weight squat and you get a full range of movement. So if we're going to start in the ice bath, we're ideally going to get that full range. So you're going to get all the way in up to your vagus nerve or your collarbone in the water. Ideally get your hands and feet in there. So that's my kind of, first point. Obviously you can start up, get your hips in there and warm up to that sort of process, but there's no point dropping the bath down to 2 or 3 degrees and you just got your waist in there or you got your hands out and your feet are out and things like that. So try and get fully submerged into that bath. My sweet spot's sort of 8 degrees. The most I'll sit in the bath for is 8 minutes. Yeah. But most mornings it's 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah. Would you say that running it at 0 degrees then is probably too cold and it's unnecessary?
Yeah, I think it's probably, personally, I wouldn't be doing it. I think you're getting out of the bath and you're probably putting too much added stress to your body that's not what you're there for. Yeah. You're probably cold for an hour or so after it.
Yeah. I've actually been waiting for someone to tell me this so I can warm my ice bath up.
Mate, like we have people come into our studio and I'm like, what are you doing today? And they're like, I'm going to do an ice bath. I'm going to do 20 minutes in the ice bath. I'm like, why? And they're like, my mate did 18. I'm going to beat him. I'm like, yeah, but why?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like what benefits are you looking for and why are you doing it for that? And you, at the end of the day, you can't stop them, right? You can only give them your advice and your expertise and educate them on the process and the time that we believe and the science says. But I've had people sitting there for 20 minutes. They get out. We're talking to them about other modalities. They're sitting there shivering. They'd want to go home. They're probably going to go sit in the shower. Hopefully the water doesn't go on their head because they'll pass out. But, they need to warm up and it takes hours. Yeah. But they're never going to come back to your studio.
Yeah, I've been cold plunging for probably a year now. Right, I bought a chest freezer at home and lined it and that sort of stuff, and I keep mine at 0.1. Yeah, and the Adelaide winters get cold, right, and mine sits outside, and but there's something about it that when I open it at 5 a.m. in the morning or 5:30 or 6 o'clock or whatever, when I get in there, there's this big rush of ice and force that comes out and hits me in the face. And I do 3 minutes in it every morning and I shiver for an hour and a bit after, but I also get straight out and I do 100 squats on my slant board and then 100 push-ups, and that's my morning routine. And then from there I can eat and start the day, but I can't do anything unless I've done 3 minutes in the plunge and then got out and done some squats and push-ups. But there's something about the pain as well that I enjoy first thing in the morning, right? It's just like it's a bit of a day conqueror for me, and then from there it's just like,
so it sounds like you're more doing it for a resilience kind of mindset thing rather than the physical benefits. Yeah, I don't, like, to be honest, I've never done this. I've never read any studies on it and stuff like that. I know that cold plunges are good from my
AFL days when I was playing footy when I was younger, and they made us jump in, ice baths after training and after games and stuff like that. So I knew they're good for you, but I more just do it just because now it's a part of my daily routine, but also how good I feel for hours and hours after.
Yeah.
Hours after.
Yeah.
It's still 11 o'clock. I don't really have my first coffee now until 11.
Yeah.
Because those dopamine levels are probably running rampant in my body.
Yeah. I think I take it probably a bit for granted, and I think the days when I don't do an ice bath, if I'm traveling or something, and I'll a cold shower or something, but the days when I don't do it, I definitely notice a difference. I'm not as productive in the morning. I get that 3 p.m. slump, and my sleep that night's not as good.
Funny you say that when you travel. I find that when I travel, I do slump in those sort of areas. But I recently went to Queenstown, and my ice bath was jumping in the lake.
Perfect.
Every morning. I think that sat between 6 and 8 degrees, so it was probably that perfect temperature.
Yeah.
But getting out at 5 a.m. it was like -2. And that was probably the hard part of it. But mate, beautiful scenery over there, beautiful country. I loved it. That was probably my favourite place to cold plunge. Out of anywhere in the world. It was awesome. But while we're on this sort of cold plunging and recovery and that, do you just want to elaborate a bit on your business that you've got now?
Yeah, so Recoverylab was originally set up to facilitate female athletes who didn't necessarily have access to recovery protocols or equipment modalities as part of their sport. And whilst they were training, doing as much as the boys, they just didn't have access to that. So we set up a facility in Windsor and in Melbourne where we had 5 key modalities under the one roof, and female athletes could come in and facilitate a recovery session and make sure they were getting the most out of their training and their well-being. Athletes don't like to pay for things, so as a business model, it wasn't ideal. But then we saw a gap in the market where a lot of people really were interested in well-being and longevity. So we COVID struck actually, and everything shut down, and we shut up shop due to being told to, and came up with the franchise model. So from there, we franchised and we opened 2 studios during COVID. 2 studios during COVID there, one in Townsville and one in Richmond and Melbourne. Townsville, we trained online via Zoom. It was definitely not ideal. And full credit to those guys running a really successful studio and going really well, and actually Army background as well. So systems, processes and everything like that, and their studio experience and cleanliness and everything is exceptional. So that was awesome. Richmond, we opened during a 2-week block in COVID there, and the government shut them back down. Victorian government shut them back down, so that was pretty stressful. But we've got Newcalm, so a stress relieving device, works on neuroacoustic tracks through noise cancelling headphones. You've got a blackout eye mask and a biosignal processing disc, takes you from sympathetic to parasympathetic nervous state, which is ideal for everyone, but people who are highly stressed, don't sleep, anxious and things like that can come into our studio and do a Newcalm experience. 30 minutes, equivalent to 2 hours restorative sleep, and all backed by science and FDA approved and things like that. So that's a absolute game changer. Not many people know about it. So it's about educating people on that process. But from there, we've got ice baths, we've got contrast therapy, so hot, cold baths, infrared saunas, compression technology, so Normatec boots, hips, arms and sleeves, and Compex, so EMS, electrical muscle stimulation.
So perfect for you, for someone that runs a lot. How much do you use it?
I'm lucky enough to have pretty much everything at home from our studios. So I've got a Recoverylab on my balcony, which I'm very lucky to do. But otherwise, here in Sydney, I'll go to our Brookvale studio and get that done. But I also enjoy going into that studio. It's my sort of safe sanctuary. You can go in there, switch off from everything and get it all done. My favourite protocol is the Newcalm, 30 minutes infrared sauna. 30 minutes and then 5 minutes in the ice bath.
I've got them boots at home. And I use them quite a bit, right? Because they're just great for circulation, great after long runs and stuff like that. And I really feel that they benefit me a lot. But The one thing that I don't have is a sauna, and my wife's been, begging me to get one lately, and I think we will, just to go from that hot to cold exposure. But what would if there was one thing, right, you could either do hot or cold, what would it be?
I would do cold plunge. That would be my thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it wasn't cold plunge, it'd definitely be sauna. I really enjoyed getting into the sauna on my days off, or also post exercise, using it for its cardiovascular benefits.
Yeah.
There, stretching in it, relaxing in it. Just really, I do really enjoy sauna too.
And how many recovery labs have you got?
We've got 15 open. We've got 2 being built that should be open in the next two or 3 weeks. Another one being built, so it's 18.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there one up in Manly?
Yeah, Brookvale.
Yep. I had a guy on my podcast named Kendrick Lewis.
Yep.
Yeah, and he actually said to me after the podcast, he said, if you're not doing anything, come to the recovery lab, and I couldn't because I had to get a flight out that afternoon.
Yeah. His is called Recovery. Separate,
okay.
different,
yeah,
but
okay.
similar, very similar. They've got they're probably a bit more communal. They've got a couple of different modalities as well. A bit more communal to us. We're a bit more boutique. You book a sauna, you get it sauna to yourself or with a friend and things like that. Mm-hmm. But they're definitely on the move. Yeah, doing some really cool things.
Nice. And how long have you been in this recovery lab sort of game for?
About 5 years now.
Yeah. And have you sort of seen any swings in momentum where more people are getting into that sort of area?
Yeah, I think it's definitely still on the up. We've been to the States to do some research and things like that on what's moving forward there. Obviously, there's a hell of a lot more money there, so not everything that sort of happens in the US doesn't always work over here in Australia. But yeah, it's definitely still on the up and coming. And as I said, people care about wellness and care about longevity. So whether it's from a physical aspect, mental or emotional, people definitely value it a lot more than what they have previously.
Yeah. I've I've only really dived into it in the past sort of year, and I'm not going to say it any changed my life or stuff like that. Like it wasn't just cold plunging, right? It was also going on mostly a carnivore diet and not drinking as much, and has definitely improved a lot of things in my life, right? And not just from a recovery point of view, also from a mental stability point of view, and how good I'm feeling in the morning, and how much stuff I get done in the morning as well, and stuff like that. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's just cold plunging, right? Because I've done a whole bunch of different things, but that definitely adds to it, right? It's just another layer that you can put into a morning routine or a daily routine that is so beneficial to yourself. And I've really enjoyed it. It's one of those things I probably won't stop because now I'm in such a good routine that, I get up in the morning and I'm like, got to get in the ice bath.
Yeah.
But it's helps me enable and start my day.
Yeah.
Because I can't do anything. Like my rule is I'm not allowed to eat or have a coffee until I've done 3 minutes in there.
Yeah.
And if it's 5 a.m. and 6 degrees outside, like it normally is in Adelaide, then that's the rule.
Yeah.
And I have to do it. So for me, it's, and look, I obviously enjoy all the benefits from it as well, but it's from a mental game for me. Like it's just part of my morning routine and I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Do you have people like that come into your studio more over than just coming in for recovery as such?
Yeah, definitely. Like all kinds of people are coming in there who are looking to achieve all sorts of different things, but we talk about finding peak performance. So whether that's physical, mental, any kind of performance that you need, whether it's at home, at work, managing the kids, managing your job, managing your life as an athlete or a weekend warrior. That's where we, what we do. We help you achieve that peak physical performance or peak mental performance, and we do that through educating you on all our different modalities. So we make sure that when you're coming into our studio and leaving, you've got what we call a golden nugget, so something that you didn't know that we've taught you about a certain modality or things like that. So making sure that we're explaining all the different modalities that we have, how they could pair together, because you might come into our studio looking to do compression boots but not know about Newcomb, but once you've done Newcomb into your compression boots, it's a game changer.
Yep. Now, look, I want to dive into some more questions for you, and I've got a lot of questions for you because I'm fascinated with people that decide to run long distances, and because maybe because I've done it a bit myself, and I know understand I've run a 100k race and a 50k race, and some of the things on the horizon for me and what I'm trying to do this year and next year is to me exciting, but I'm absolutely fascinated as to what drives people to run long distances, what drives people to run 250Ks over 7 days across Chile and that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? I like it. The driving factor behind it completely fascinates me, and this is what I want to dive into right now with you. So, you sort of explained a bit about your professional rugby career and what you're doing now, but in terms of business. But let's get into some of the stuff that drives you to run long distances and the reason you do it. So probably the first question for me to you is, what do you get out of running really long distances as well? And what do you get out of putting yourself through that sort of pain?
I guess for me, coming out of a team sport where, you were fatigued and things like that, you had people around you to bring you up. And bounce your energy off and things like that. Once that finished, I really needed to find something else that I enjoyed doing, and I enjoy problem solving. I think more than I know, and I do it on a daily basis, whether it's training, whether it's work, whether it's at home. So for me, jumping into these kind of experiences was about problem solving on the run. But also pushing my perceived limits as well. So for me, if I'm nervous and excited, then I know I'm in the right arena. If it scares me, then it's pretty good. And I just enjoy that, and I threw myself in the deep end.
Yeah, it's very, very. It's resounding with me that you say that. If you're nervous about it, it's probably good, because every time I look at a fucking race, right, and I want to do one in a couple of months. It's called the Heisman 105 in Adelaide. It's a 115k race through the Heisman Trail, and it's quite tough. And I've done the 50k event for it before, and I said to myself, I'm going to come back and do the 115. But I look at it, and when I'm sort of mapping it out, and from aid station to aid station, I'm getting nervous looking at it, and I think to myself, this is probably the right thing to do, though.
Yeah.
Because if you're getting nervous about it, it means you're testing yourself, or there's that bit of extreme that you're looking at, and you're going, I might not finish this.
Yeah.
But if I put everything into it, I'll give myself a good chance of finishing it. But the unknown, like the factor for me with that sort of stuff is running to the unknown.
Yeah.
You get into 25Ks and one of the greatest things I was told about ultra marathon running is everything that you think can go wrong will definitely go wrong.
Yeah.
And then some on top of that.
Yeah.
Do you sort of enjoy that aspect as well? That, like not knowing that you might finish a race, or, just knowing that stuff can go wrong, but you have to, like you said before, think on the run, and you might have to be a lateral thinker and to get through a race. Does that enjoy you? Is that the aspect that you enjoy of it?
Yeah, definitely. People will laugh because I'm the most unorganised person when it comes to races and things like that. I've got a race in 4 or 5 weeks now. I haven't even looked at the course and the checkpoints and things like that. I've got absolutely no idea what I'm in for. So I had a meeting with my crew the other night, and he was like, mate, I've done this spreadsheet for you, and we've got the distances between each checkpoint. Like, do you need this? I'm like, mate, fuck, yes. Like, I didn't even think about doing that kind of thing. So, and that's probably been a detriment to some of the races that I've done. But definitely the obstacles and stuff, I just take so much out of these events, and that's not everything that I want to do, but I just take so much out of these events to real life situations. And I feel like when it comes to pressured situations, whether it's at home or at work, I feel like I'm pretty level-headed with these things, and I'm very solution-based. My wife will laugh at this, but like she'll come to me with not a problem, but something that's happened at work or at life or an obstacle, and I'm sitting there like working it out in my head and telling her like, this is what we need to do, and she's like, no, I just want to vent. I just need to talk about it. And that's something that I'm learning. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at sitting there venting and basking in in this situation and in the problem. I'm just like, oh, well, this is what we need to do to get to that point, so let's do that. Why are we wasting time doing it?
Yeah.
But, everyone does different things, and she wants to sit there and talk about it, which is great, and I need to get better at doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I'm learning. But, yeah, man, I'm just probably on the go too much, too quickly.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's also a good thing as well, I think. You're on the go. You're always keeping your mind occupied, right?
Yeah.
And you're always keeping it driven. You're always keeping it, you've always got something on the horizon to push for, which I've found a lot of comfort in personally, right? Especially with running so much, always having something on the horizon, always having something to push for has given me great comfort in training as hard as I do and running long distances and stuff like that. And I'm very much similar to you, right? I don't really plan too much for it.
Yeah.
I actually don't really train for ultramarathons. I just train to be the fittest person I can be.
Yeah.
I walk into the gym and I think to myself, all right, I'm going to be the hardest trainer here today, or I'll go for a run and whoever I see out running, I think, well, they're not running at my pace, my heart rate in zone 2. You know what I mean? Like I always think about that. And I don't know if it's just that competitive drive I've had in myself from a young age or anything like that, but I always enjoy that pursuit of continuously chasing those sort of bigger goals and stuff like that. But I actually don't really train for ultra marathons themselves. I just sort of go out and do them.
Yeah.
Just making sure, obviously, that the Ks are in the legs before you start these sort of stuff and sort of start these runs. But yeah, I've never really been a big trainer for events as such. I just enjoy keeping fit and testing myself.
Yeah, I probably haven't trained specifically for a lot of the events. There's a couple that I have. This one I definitely have, the elevation, and like the 40% don't finish. Kind of made me realize, you need to be training for this. Coast to coast is another one where it's pretty specific. You've got kayaking and running across rocks for 30 Ks. So those were trying to, I had to train specifically to finish those.
Yeah.
But some of them, just, train for anything.
Yeah.
Or train for everything, ready for anything.
Yeah. Now I want to jump onto the race that you're going to do in five weeks, right? So quickly, what is it?
It's called the TDS race by UTMB over in France, Italy / France.
Is it France, Italy, and Switzerland?
So we start in Courmayeur in Italy. We do like the UTMB miler, but backwards.
Yep.
And only 80% of it, I think. So 145 Ks from Italy back into Chamonix.
And it's 10K worth of elevation.
Yeah, just under, I think. Yeah.
So just putting a bit of dexterity on the situation, the 100K that I ran was 3.5K elevation at Adelaide Hills, which is fucking crazy when you think about 10K elevation. Like, a lot of people can't run 10K, let alone the elevation in the race. Now, this is known as one of the hardest ultramarathons in the world, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And recently, I did a bit of research on this. Recently, in the past 2 years, 2 people have died running it. So what's your thought pattern going into it, running that race, knowing that people have lost their lives doing it?
Again, I didn't know any of that stuff, so I'm learning for the first time today. But, it's sad. I guess I have been in a race before where someone died in front of me, which was pretty gnarly and scary. But
well, they just dropped, or
he had a heart attack. So that was pretty tough. But look, a lot of people die in these races.
Yep.
I think, and it's probably not covered. It's covered up, I guess, by the race report and things. But look, nervous, excited, in the right place.
Yeah, that's it. And, we spoke about before, like, if you're not probably nervous about it, then, it's probably not for you.
Yeah.
And you talk about this sort of stuff and, you're nervous, you're excited about it, but that's probably realising that it's the right thing to do to run it. And, look, my wife listens to these podcasts and she's probably going to hate me saying this, that, it's like one of these. Now that you pointed it out to me, it's sort of on my list of things to do. I'm like, I got to do that, sort of thing. And
I wanted to get into the miler. So the UTMB miler is kind of the holy grail of races. 171 Ks, I think. 9,000 ish elevation there. So I got into the lottery for that through having the running stones.
Yeah.
But didn't get drawn out. So TDS race came up and I just signed up to it. I thought it was like an error and I'd somehow been able to register for this thing. So signed up, talked to my mate, Matty Abel, who's coaching me, and he's like, mate, that's harder. I'm like, oh, good.
Yeah, heck, nice. Because these things are, like I watched a few YouTube clips of the starting race and this. It's huge, massive, right? Yeah. Like the starting line is flooded with people. It's a massive event. It draws huge crowds.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time to finish. What's your sort of finishing or around about, structural finish time where you want to finish and then maybe where you might finish?
Yeah, I've got no idea on that either. I know there's a 44-hour cutoff time. I've told someone I want to do it in 35. I've told someone I want to do it in 30, but honestly, I just want to finish it.
Yeah.
I think, finishing it will definitely be an achievement. Finish it in a good fashion, not too broken.
Yeah.
I'll be happy with, but I just want to build into the race, I think.
There's also a part of you, which I can sort of see now, that maybe just not finishing it is good enough for you. Like you also sort of want to run a good time. And is there sort of that sort of side to you as well? Because when I run a 100K race in Adelaide, I came in 14 hours, but the last 16K for that race, I stopped. It was 8 degrees in Adelaide. The sun went down and my body seized up and I could not get going after that, and that sort of delayed me from going from a 12-hour finish to a 14-hour finish. And it's still now like I'd wake up every day thinking to myself, I'm like, fuck, if you didn't stop, you'd get 12 hours instead of 14 hours.
Yeah.
Is there that sort of side of you as well that wants to do it quicker?
Yeah, definitely. Like I've been putting in a pretty solid training block. I feel probably the fittest I've ever felt. So I'm really looking forward to going over there and testing it and just running sort of my own race. I'm not there to win it, but there to push myself and have a good day out. I mean, I've been looking at videos of like the course and things that we're running along the way, and
it's amazing, isn't it?
It's like I can't actually believe that I'm doing it. Like where we're going to be running. So I'm lucky enough to be there for about a week before. Lots of people are over there now training for about a month out to acclimatise, and I'll get the week, which will be nice. But going to make sure that I've got mates coming over to film and shoot it all. So make sure that we get up there in the week beforehand and make sure we look around, because I feel like after these races, I don't know about you, but you finish these races and you're like, I don't even know like where I ran, what I looked at. I've done Kosci and I didn't really even take a look from up top. Yeah, it's just like next step, let's go. Yeah,
it's very, very funny that you bring that up. It's and we were talking about this yesterday with Warren on my previous podcast with Warren. It's like you get over the finish line in these races and you think to yourself, that wasn't a favourite part of my race. The favourite part of my race was this point or doing back-to-back marathons, and you're at K84 and it's like I've got 16K to go and you're running and you're thinking to yourself, this is a point I actually love, but you're too busy being sore or you're too busy running to enjoy it. I don't, like for me, crossing the finish line, it doesn't mean anything. It means nothing to me at all. Like the real race for me is K60, K80, K95 when you're just in the hurt locker but you're enjoying it. But the unfortunate thing is about it, you generally don't remember it as much as other stuff. And do you sort of still, feel similar on that situation?
Yeah, I enjoy. I look back at all the lessons throughout the race that I learnt, that I probably taught myself, and what I could really take out of that and take it into either the next race or life or business. Yeah.
Well, mate, I'll definitely be watching. From my Instagram account, and I wish you the best of luck. And I'm jealous that you're doing it. And it might be something that I might try and tick off on my list in a couple of years. But and if I do, I'll definitely be ringing you up and asking you for a few pointers. I want to sort of get on to a couple of other races that you've done, and the one that sticks out for me was a 7-day 250K race in Chile. You want to talk me through this? Because obviously, Chile is a crazy place, right? Huge altitude and wild weather and stuff like that. What sort of drove you to do that race, and what was it like?
I just met a friend of mine, and she'd asked me to go to this race at the time, and I was in Greece partying it up over there and living my life, and I thought, if I can do 100 Ks this week while I was in EOS, I'll sign up to this race. It was about 4 weeks away. So I was, out till 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'd get up at 5 because it was so hot and just try to get some Ks in. And I banged out 100 Ks that week, and I was like, right, let's go. So I signed up to this race in Chile, booked my flights from Sydney over there, and I think it was about 3 days out from leaving. I had actually no kit for the race and the mandatory equipment and things like that. So my mum was driving around town, which Warren and Hannah and everyone will vouch for that. She does that before every race for me because I'm useless. And so we got everything that I needed. I took one of my good mates, Alec, over there to film it as well. And I didn't even know what it was. My biggest fear of that race was starving. So you had to carry everything on your back, right? So it's self-supported.
So there's no aid stations?
No. So they give you water. They'd give you water, and they'd give you a tent, and they'd give you a fire to cook your dinner at night.
But you really just got to run with your own shit.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
So you're wearing the same clothes the whole time, like you're carrying toilet paper. There's no showers. It's just like start, finish, and you finish, and there's a big camp there with a marquee, and you roll out your air mattress.
I know the feeling. I know. Well, I know the feeling. Like you're just talking about then of not changing and carrying your shit. I know the feeling, man. I was in the military. And I'm like, fuck, man. We were, I used to go sometimes like 6 to 8 weeks without showering.
Yeah.
Like, oh fuck.
Yeah. Just get on with the job.
Yeah, but did you really enjoy that sort of, like getting under and getting dirty and pushing yourself to those sort of limits because some of the things about these races, right, like the 100K race and stuff like that, like they're done in a day.
Yeah.
Right. And you can just say to yourself, well, if I just get through this, I'll be sleeping in my bed tonight. So nothing else really matters. But for something that goes for 7 days straight, like what was the sort of mindset behind that? Have you ever put yourself in that sort of situation before?
No, I think I was pretty naive to everything about that whole situation of what to expect. I wore shoes that were my normal shoe size, but we're at altitude. I think we're like 3,500 meters. In the days, it was getting to like 45 degrees, so your feet are hot. They're swelling. I had to cut my shoes open just to be able to put my foot in the shoe. That was just another obstacle along the way. Then I didn't take the top of my bladder. There's the zip tie that goes across for your hydration pack. So I taped that up, and on morning one, put my pack on, and it burst and went through my bag. So I had sticky like tailwind shit through my bag on day one. It was just an absolute nightmare. But just like that was my first ever distance over, or even a marathon. I hadn't done a marathon at that point, so I really threw myself in the deep end. But like, wouldn't change it for anything. I learned so much about myself. So much about what you can achieve when you set your mind to it. That little voice in your head, you can switch it off whenever you want. For me, and it's awesome.
Has that sort of helped you in life as well? Running these long distances and especially from your background as well, playing professional rugby. Do you sort of see stuff in life that isn't unconquerable? Like even with building a business, right, and franchising that out, like there's obviously elements of that where you sort of think to yourself, well, there's risk here, there's risk, there's risk there, especially during COVID, coming out of COVID, like there was a lot of grey areas, right? You couldn't see, it was foggy, no one knew what the future was like. Did you sort of take a lot of what you've done in running and rugby as support and base and sort of that like unconquerable mind that you can do stuff in business as well?
Yeah, well, I think there's risk in everything that you do, whether it's going for a walk or setting up a business or anything. So calculated risk versus reward, but just managing that stuff. But I'll do anything. I just like, say you want to do something, I'll just like, how am I going to do it?
Yeah.
What do I need to do to get there?
Yeah. Has this been in you since you've been young? Like, have you always wanted to be on the move? Have you always wanted to be sort of, building and creating and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think my parents would probably say that. Like, I was a bit shy when I was a young kid, but I always had the drive in me.
Yeah.
My brother and I used to play, hallway rugby and all that kind of stuff when we were young. And from a young age, my goal was to play rugby. Mm-hmm. For him, probably not so much, but he's gone down the business route, and we're both down that route now. But yeah, we're both definitely on the go. Would have been a handful for our parents.
Yeah. I grew up with a brother as well, and can relate. You know, it was always backyard cricket in the summer, and then it was always during the winter it was footy and indoor footy because it was raining outside and finding stuff to do, and we're always on the move and stuff like that. And it's probably, you know, having that type of base has always set me and my brother up to be. I actually think to be successful in life as well, because there's so many things that sport teaches you from a young age that you can't get from sitting in a classroom. You know, like the camaraderie, the team building, the working with someone, the building something, also the essence of struggle and putting yourself through struggle. But at the end of struggle, there is something that you've completed and you're like, fuck, if I actually do this and train for this a certain amount of times, I'll get better at it.
Yeah.
And through that struggle, you get reward. And through that reward, you get, you know, there might be goals and achievements at the end, which is like, I don't think can be replicated in a classroom or anywhere else. And I think you have to do it through, and I spoke about this on my podcast a lot, you have to do it through sport and it doesn't have to be a team sport. You can get a kid into golf, tennis. Yeah. You can get him into running as they're younger. I think that's a very, very important part of growth from a young person, especially in men, right? And we can only talk about men because we're men, and I don't really know anything else. But yeah, I think there's a really big thing to say, and you know, there's a lot of essence behind that. And behind that struggle for men, especially in a young age, because they learn so much from it.
Yeah. I was just sitting there thinking, like, what did I actually learn from school? Like, a bit controversial, but like, you know, business-wise, I didn't do anything I did a bit of a business diploma at university for a semester while I was playing footy, only because we had to. But like, you're just around your mates. I've learned so much from my parents, which I'm very lucky to do. They've been very business orientated and savvy, so learned so much from them, and I continually call them most days being like, Mum, I'm over it, like, what do I do? She's like, just keep going. Yeah, from the team environment, from the sport, from your mates and stuff, like never giving up, respect for your mates, dignity and you know, humbleness and things like that you learn from them, and not letting people down.
I also didn't put as much effort as I should have put in school, but it taught me the fundamentals, right? But I think a big part of school and a big part of learning is getting into those groups and knowing how to act around people and becoming a good person in those sort of schools and stuff like that. So there's all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I didn't really, like, unfortunately, and this is my opinion, school doesn't teach you what you need to know about life. It doesn't teach you how to manage money. It doesn't teach you how to much about relationships or anything like that. Like, one of the fundamental things that I've find absolutely crazy is it doesn't teach people how to manage money. Yeah. And I don't know, if I would put my tinfoil hat on, I think there's a reason why they do that as well, right? Yeah. Because they can't have people that have all just got really good money managing skills and stuff like that. But that's another podcast for another time. Look, mate, just sort of wrapping this podcast up, I've got a couple more questions for you. And you know, this is my favorite part of the podcast. Yeah. You know, and I love asking these people this question because I get to see, you know, one side of them, and then they sort of dive back into their past and think, oh shit, what would I actually ask him if I was 18? So the question is, mate, if you were to talk to Ben Seymour, 18-year-old Ben Seymour, what's one bit of advice about life that you'd give him?
Tough question. I think I knew this one was coming from looking at your Instagram and stuff, and I've been thinking about it. I think for me, I'd probably just say slow down and enjoy it. We've spoken about being on the go the whole time, but I mean, you know, I was 18. I was learning life post school. A lot of my mates were going out partying and things like that, and all I wanted to do was play rugby. So I really dialed in my on what I wanted to achieve through that, which was awesome. I was pretty hard on myself through a lot of it, but I honestly wouldn't change anything. But I'd just say, like, slow down, enjoy it, soak it up. Yeah. Which I think I did, and I'm proud of that. But just enjoy those times. Life goes so quickly, right?
Yeah, mate. That's one thing I would tell myself as well. But I fucking love that question. And I love it so much that I even want to ask normal people that aren't on my podcast. You know what I mean? It's just so good. It gives you a dive back into sort of who they were at the age of 18, how much they've accomplished, and that one bit of advice. It's I'd love to give myself 10,000 bits of advice, but that one bit of advice is just chill out.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah, enjoy the ride way there. Now, as Warren had a question for you, you've got to have a question for the next podcast guest. He's a good friend of mine, and I am actually going to love asking him the question of what would you tell 18-year-old self about life? What's that one bit of advice? Because he has worked his ass off since the age of 17, right? And he's built a real estate empire in Adelaide and very, very successful real estate agent. Owns majority of the market in the area that I live in. Like, if anyone's selling their house in the area I live in or that sort of eastern suburbs in Adelaide, they're getting this guy to sell it. So that's how he's sort of done that. And he's been an extremely hard worker and he's always on the move and always on the go. So what would be your question for him?
What's one thing that you have or that you want or that you've learnt that money can't buy?
Brilliant. He's the guy's a deep thinker as well. So, that's a good question. Maybe I should ask all my podcast guests that.
No, I just think, everyone's different, right? But what we want to achieve in life is sometimes it's a materialistic thing or it's a money thing or something, but we forget along the way or that we've learned or we've achieved. That brings us back down into that real purpose. So interested to see it.
Well, you're going to have to tune in next week to
Perfect. I'll be there.
That's it, mate. Well, Ben Seymour, thanks very much for jumping on my podcast. I'm forever grateful that that you're on, mate, and you're episode 11, and no one can take that away from you. And mate, I'm really, really excited to see what you're going to do in the next 5 or 6 weeks over in Europe, and I'll be following and cheering for you, and I'm sort of jealous that you're doing it as well, mate. So good luck for that, and Ben Seymour, thanks for coming on to Odds Collide podcast, mate.
Thanks, mate. Big things coming for you.
That's it. Good stuff. Thanks, mate. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And for more information, head over to our Instagram at 2 Worlds Collide Podcast. Take care.